Hi Carolyn, it's Mary. I'm here to present to you my service learning project for your leadership class. So I hope you like my presentation. So just to start the presentation, here's a little quote that I wrote that I think is very appropriate considering the service learning project, especially the one that I had chosen, which was to feed the homeless and work with the Union Gospel Mission. So my quote is that the greatest joy in life is to be selfless and to give of oneself in service of others. And I've always been a firm believer that it's better to give than to receive, and I never give in expectation of receiving, and it's served me very well throughout my life, and I will continue probably in the same vein. So we're just going to take a look at a little bit about the agenda today. So what we're going to talk about is the service learning project, talk about the homeless crisis in Vancouver and why I chose the homeless situation as my service learning project. I'll tell you a little bit about the history of the Union Gospel Mission and what their mandate is. I'll talk about the stakeholders and the value proposition to each of the stakeholders. I'll talk a little bit about the benefits and the resources needed to carry out this service project, as well a little bit about the plan, the timeline, and the actual execution. And then I'll talk a little bit about followers and close it with the conclusion and with the lessons learned, which I kind of look at as the takeaways of my presentation. So I hope you enjoy. So as you can see from the first slide, there I am at the Union Gospel Mission peeling potatoes. When I arrived there, we were put to work right away in the kitchen by the chef, Tom, who brought us over a big box of potatoes. There was probably, gosh, at least 15 full bags and then a whole bunch of loose ones. And that was our first task, was to get the potatoes peeled. So there I am. And so a little bit about the service opportunity. So the service opportunity is to provide a helping hand to those in need. Particularly at the Union Gospel Mission. We wanted to be of service not just to the homeless and the people that need the hot meals and need the service, but also for the many volunteers that volunteer at these organizations. They work tirelessly around the clock, trying to see to it that people, especially the homeless on the downtown east side, get at least 2 hot meals a day. So they're serving lunch and dinner. So it's important to recognize the need for these volunteers to have time off as well, or to at least have more bodies helping with the tasks at hand. And Lord, do they need it. And then of course being of service, and helping other people and being selfless is just a great idea for my service opportunity or my service center. So just flipping to the next slide, just going to talk a little bit about the homeless crisis in BC, which I know everybody knows that it's very bad and everybody knows what it's about. But some of the numbers are kind of staggering. For instance, since 2008 till now, the actual number of homeless people has doubled on the streets. So it's gone from about 1,000 upwards of 2,100, 2,200, at least that's what they were able to count. But there's probably a significant number that weren't able to be counted and weren't there. A lot of people think that a lot of people on the downtown east side are all injection users and they make up the homeless, but that simply is not true. Although a lot of the people that are down there do have addictions: cigarettes, alcohol, cocaine, marijuana, methamphetamines. They're not all injection drug users, but I think when people drive down to the downtown east side and hit around the Hastings and around the Pigeon Park and the library there, those are the people that you see at the forefront, the people staggering across the street that are kind of immobilized because of the drugs that they are taking. And I think people just kind of paint everybody with the same brush and believe that that's the whole situation there, but in fact it's really not. And a lot of other people think that a lot of these people that are homeless and that are coming from other provinces to Vancouver. And yes, of course, there are some of that, but in actual fact, 78% of the homeless people in Vancouver actually rented in the city of Vancouver for a while, or part of their lives, and it just became unaffordable, and they don't get enough money from the government. They can't afford to pay the rents, and that's the only choice they have, which is homelessness. And thank God for the Union Gospel Mission that's able to help them out with at least food. So just talking now a little bit about the Union Gospel Mission. It was actually started in 1940 by a gentleman by the name of Bob Stacy, and Bob was 21 years old when he started the Union Gospel Mission. So he was going around collecting donations and going to church groups and the well-off of society, and pretty much begging because he saw the need way back then in 1940. So in 1940, he was able to open the very first Union Gospel Mission, which was at number 10 Powell Street, which was quite a success. And that year was the inaugural year of the annual what we know of now as the Union Gospel Mission's Christmas dinner, although they do have the Easter dinner, but the Christmas dinner was the first one that they had. They served 100 people during that dinner, and up until last year, that number has grown from 100 people to 3,500 people, and they're serving 320,000 meals a year at the Union Gospel Mission. So they're doing remarkable things. They've opened 7 other locations throughout the Lower Mainland and Metro Vancouver, and one in Mission, BC. And basically the Union Gospel Mission mandate is to help the homeless, help the indigent, help those people that need the help. So just looking at the stakeholders, basically the stakeholders are the needy themselves, the volunteers within the community that go there, and obviously the Union Gospel Mission. And there's many, many more, but I think these are the top 3. So the value proposition for the needy is that, they're getting the help that they need, or some of the help that they need, not getting everything certainly, but what the Union Gospel Mission is able to do is quite remarkable, and at least being able to give 2 hot meals a day, one at lunch and one at dinner, and each session they turn about between 300 and 400 people each serving. So it's quite a fine-tuned machine, and the chef Tom there is very good at what he does. He knows exactly how much is needed, and how many people are going to be coming, how long they need to be served. So yeah, it's quite interesting. He has everything down to a fine science. When we were there, we started serving rice with vegetables and salmon, and then we switched to potatoes and vegetables and meat, and then we switched to meatloaf, we switched to spaghetti. So we were just constantly going through the food, and it did not stop for 2 straight hours. There was just continual supply of people coming looking for a hot meal, and it was quite a wonderful experience in that regard. So those are the stakeholders. So the volunteers, when other people volunteer, it gives them a little bit of a break. For the Union Gospel Mission, we're donating our time, our resources, and anything else that we can give. Money, of course, is helpful, but time is free, so that's a good thing. Looking at some of the benefits, at least some of the benefits that I've seen from the service project, which are being able to help people in need. We brightened the days of a lot of the people, that were coming in, and it was very inspiring. Can you stop moving it? It was very inspiring, and we were able to provide hot meals for everybody. No one got turned away. We could give support to these organizations and give relief to some of the volunteers, and those are just a few of the benefits. There's innumerable amount of benefits. And now looking at some of the resources, this particular service project didn't take a lot of resources, and I didn't really know what to expect or whether it would or wouldn't, but really it didn't. All it took was a willing spirit, and to go there with a warm heart and an open heart and a pair of comfortable shoes. Tom gave us a plastic apron and some rubber gloves, and we were on our way. And the other resources are just having personal resources like patience, love, and an open heart, and be willing to give and be selfless. So now just a little bit about how everything broke down. So when I originally reached out to the Union Gospel Mission, you have to register as a volunteer with them, and you typically have to go through interviews and a criminal record check. But what was quite surprising to me is that you actually can go there any time of day during their meal service, whether that's in the afternoon at lunch or at dinner, and you can come in as a guest and you can volunteer your services without having to go through all the protocol of officially becoming a volunteer with the Union Gospel Mission. So if you're ever downtown on the downtown east side and you feel like giving back, you can certainly go in and they'll put you to work because they need the help, and it's quite easy to achieve, and it's quite rewarding. So once you register, you attend as a guest, which I did on the Friday night. We attended as a guest, got assimilated, and then we were put right to work. Afterwards, we were given our agenda for what the Easter dinner was going to look like, and the hours that we would have to attend, and what the responsibilities, and everybody has different responsibilities that they hand out, and as the course of the day goes on, those responsibilities shift accordingly to wherever the need is. So that's basically it. So we came in, served hot chocolate, we prepared food, we cleaned food, we peeled potatoes, we served the food, we cleaned the dishes, and we helped clean up and everything else. So yeah, that was basically how it all went down. And then I just thought it was extremely rewarding when friends see what you're doing and they want to become involved, and they come down and they join you, and they leave with a feeling of worthiness, and that they really enjoyed the experience and felt kind of humble in a way to be able to give back and give some time to people who needed it. So that was quite wonderful. And then the outcomes, basically we peeled about 15 bags of potatoes. We sorted about 25 pounds of grapes. We prepared over 1,000 cups of hot chocolate. We peeled potatoes, so I think I mentioned that. We served over 800 people, cleaned tables, helped people that had mobility issues, cleaned up, did food scraps, try to recycle whenever we could. They compost everything, so they try to, utilize every possible thing that comes through their doors. They try to get the best out of it in every possible way. We witnessed some really, really happy people that were just so joyful to have a place to come and have us sit down and have a warm meal, and that was quite remarkable. So it was a really great experience. And the lesson learned, or the lessons I should say learned, was that to be of service, it's free, and anyone can do that. You don't need money. You don't need anything special. Just show up and do what you can to help out. So it was a very rewarding experience, and it makes you really appreciate what you have. Smiles and kind words go way farther than money. And the type of exposure truly helps organizations like the Union Gospel Mission. So these are just some of the lessons learned. It was just an overall great experience, and I will be doing it on a regular basis whenever I have time, which I'm going to make time to contribute to the Union Gospel Mission, because I think what they do is quite remarkable, especially with the little resources that they actually do get. And that's the end of my service learning project. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, I'm not a pro on camera, and 20 minutes is a long time for one person to present, but given the circumstances, I truly hope you enjoyed it. I know I did, and thank you so much. Have a great day.